Ancient China drilled a well deeper than any building on Earth. It reached over 1,000 meters underground. That was 800 years before the modern skyscraper existed. And they did it with bamboo, rope, and muscle. The place is called Zhigung in Sichuan province. People there drilled for salt buried deep in a rock. You need salt to live. Your body runs on it right now. Every heartbeat, every nerve depends on it. Back then, salt was money. Whoever controlled the salt controlled everything. So the people of Zhigung went digging. But the salt wasn't near the surface. It sat trapped in brine, deep below their feet. So they invented a way to punch through solid rock. Picture a heavy iron bit hanging from bamboo cable. Workers stood on a wooden lever, like a seesaw. They stepped up, then dropped their weight down. The bit smashed into the rock below. Then they lifted it and dropped it again. Thousands of times. Millions of times. This is called percussion drilling. And you use the same idea today. Modern oil rigs still borrow from this exact method. The Chinese figured it out around the year 1000. Think about how slow this was. They advanced maybe a few centimeters a day. A single well could take decades to finish. Some wells were passed down through generations. Your great-grandfather started it, and you finished it. Imagine inheriting a hole in the ground as your life's work. Now picture the cable holding that iron bit. It was made of braided bamboo strips. Bamboo, twisted into rope hundreds of meters long. And here's the surprising part. Bamboo cable is incredibly strong when pulled straight. It could stretch over a kilometer down a narrow shaft. It flexed instead of snapping. It resisted rot in the wet borehole. You couldn't buy steel cable back then, so they used a plant growing all around them. The boreholes themselves were astonishingly narrow. Some were only about 10 centimeters wide. That's smaller than the width of your hand. Yet they went straight down for a kilometer. Keeping a hole that narrow and that deep is brutally hard. The bit had to stay perfectly centered. One wobble and the whole shaft could collapse. They used bamboo tubes to line the walls. They fished out broken tools with clever bamboo hooks. When a bit snapped off deep below, they didn't quit. They lowered special grabbers to retrieve the pieces. They wrote manuals on how to fix every problem. A drop tool, a bent shaft, a flooded hole. These were the first real drilling engineers. And the deepest well came in 1835. It was called the Shanghai Well. It reached about 1,100 meters down. That's over a kilometer straight into the earth. For comparison, the Eiffel Tower is 300 meters tall. Stack it more than 3 times, and you're still short. No structure humans had ever built went that deep or high. This little Chinese town held a record. Now here's what they found down there. It wasn't just salty brine. It was natural gas. Flammable gas came rushing up the wells. And instead of panicking, they used it. They piped the gas through bamboo tubes. They burned it to boil the brine into salt. So they discovered natural gas fuel 1,000 years ago. You flip on a gas stove today without a thought. They were doing a version of that in ancient Sichuan. They even built valves and pipelines out of bamboo. Networks of pipes crossed the whole town. Gas for the furnaces, brine for the pans. It was an entire energy system, hand-built, and it ran on plants and human strength alone. Let's talk about the animals that powered it. Water buffalo turned massive wooden wheels. These wheels wound up the heavy bamboo cables. It took teams of buffalo working in shifts. One well might need dozens of them. The whole town smelled of salt and smoke and animals. Now feel this fact in your own body. The salt they pulled up seasoned millions of meals. It preserved meat and fish for long winters. It kept people alive across a huge region. Every grain of that salt started a kilometer underground. It was lifted by buffalo and boiled by underground gas. Your table salt today comes from machines and factories. Theirs came from one of history's greatest handmade feats. And the technology spread across the world. Western engineers studied these Chinese methods centuries later. The percussion drilling that found oil in America, Its roots trace back to these salt wells. When the first oil wells were drilled in the 1800s, they used the same cable tool idea. So the gas station near you has a Chinese ancestor. That's not an exaggeration. It's engineering history. Here's another thing you can picture clearly. The wooden derricks towered over the town. Tall bamboo and timber frames like early skyscrapers. Some stood 40 meters high or more. From a distance, Zhejiang looked like a forest of towers. Thousands of them dotting the hills. It was an industrial landscape 1,000 years old. And some of those wells still work today. A few ancient wells in Zhejiang are still producing. They still bring up brine after centuries. You can visit and watch the old wheels turn. There's a museum built right on the salt fields. You can stand where buffalo once walked in circles. You can see the bamboo cables and iron bits yourself. Now, think about the patience this all required. No electricity. No steel. No engines. Just levers, ropes, animals, and human hands. A person could spend a whole life on one well, and they still pushed deeper than anyone before them. That drive to go down further and further changed the world, because learning to drill deep unlocked everything. Salt, gas, and eventually oil and modern energy. It all traces back to people wanting to survive. They needed salt, and they refused to give up. So they built the deepest holes on the planet, with plants, with patience, with buffalo and fire. And they held that record for centuries. The next time you salt your food, remember Zhejiang. Remember the workers stepping on that wooden lever, up and down thousands of times a day, boring a hole into history itself. If facts like these amaze you, subscribe and stay curious with us.